Hey, welcome to Academy 99 podcast. I'm Bradley Grinnan. This is Chris Lee. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I've got my coffee. I've got my drink. I feel pretty good. Hydrate to be
day.
great.
Right.
I used to.
I like it. Yeah.
I worked at camps.
And there you go.
Yeah. Hey, you're frozen. I worked at camps
Yes,
for years, you know that. And so one of the mottos we always had at this one camp, it was on this mountain actually. And it's gorgeous in the mountains. Yeah. Facility was sprawling like nothing we did with the NAS. And it's just gorgeous. But every motto for all the kids was hydrate to be great. And we were just making kids pour water down their throat, which was smart. In middle school, when I played football, in middle school and high school, when I wrestled, all the coaches would force us not to drink during practices because it would make us tougher.
Right.
Biggest crock of BS ever.
Dude, yeah, like wrestling, when you're cutting weight, it's all you're just dropping water weight, which is just dehydrating you, which is reducing performance ability and that type of thing. Nowadays, dude, when I was coaching before the Army and stuff, they have like pretty strict measures in place now. Like you can't lose more than a certain percentage of your body weight in a certain period. And so it kind of cut back on a lot of that,
I'm all
drastic
for that.
Yeah, I think that's a much healthier way to do it.
If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't cut weight.
Yeah, me neither. I'd
maintain
be better
or go up a weight.
Yeah, for sure. Samesies.
That being said, that's how Tim Ferriss won his championship.
Oh, really?
Trophy.
He just went up a weight?
No. He did severe dehydration, weighed in, and then did super rehydration and gained like 15 more pounds in his weight class.
That's dirty.
It's as close to cheating as you can get while still being within the rules. But it is what it is. He's taken a lot of flack for that. But hey, I got a question for you today.
Yeah, send it.
What do you do when you're no longer challenged with your job or with what you're doing in life? Your career, your mission,
sure,
whatever it is, right? Which I love this question. I think you do too, which is why I was excited to talk about it today. But what do you do when you're no longer challenged?
I know from personal experience, what I have done is change careers
drastically. It's a great place
to start. Yeah. Like when I was working at that fancy hotel in Virginia before the Army, it was a safe job. It was a comfortable job. I did it well, but I didn't feel challenged. And that's when I enlisted in the Army because I wanted that challenge. And then after 10 years in the Army is challenging. And not to say that like the job got easy. It didn't. But it got to the point where like I knew how to do my job and it was almost on autopilot. And so seeking out that new challenge is when I got out and started coaching. So I'm not necessarily recommending change careers if you're not feeling challenged, but rather you should, when you start getting real comfortable, that's when you start to stagnate. And so being self-aware enough to understand that stagnation's bad, and then seeking out either new challenges within your career field, or maybe it does mean, picking up a new skill. Maybe all of a sudden you decide to pursue like a cybersecurity certificate or something like that, and then learn a new skill set and then pursue a career in that. That's definitely an option, but it requires first and foremost for you to be self-aware enough to understand that you're not being challenged, and then to go pursue something that is either different or outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think you're nailing it with stagnation for sure. I mean, another way to ask, here's an indication if you're not feeling challenged. An indication would be that you just don't. You're not loving what you're doing like you once did.
Right.
Is that stagnation? I think certainly career change is on the board.
Yeah.
If you're making, multiple six figures as an executive somewhere,
Yeah.
that's a real thinker. Like, do I want to, if I change careers, I could possibly be given. Now, there's all kinds of careers for execs. I mean, you could go from, ops to, director of operations, executive officer of operations. You could move over to,
Sure.
Security, cybersecurity, fraud, sales, so you're not necessarily giving up, but money isn't everything. So, but I think career is too. I think also I would want to look what's going on in my life in every personal area as well. Like,
I agree.
there's so many factors. There's a lot to unpack, which is why
For sure.
I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. And I think if you're feeling unchallenged in your career, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to shift entirely. Maybe it's just pursuing a different aspect of, or a different skill set within your career field. It's really just pushing those boundaries. But you bring up a good point. Being unchallenged, or lack of having challenge within your career, you're feeling just kind of stagnant. That might be resolved by challenging yourself in a different way outside of work too. Maybe it's like picking up a brand new hobby or something like that, or start training martial arts, or lifting heavy in the gym, or something like that. Sometimes not being challenged is more than just occupational. It's oftentimes just like over like a big umbrella. Like, I need some kind of challenge in my life. I think people, and maybe men in general, they actually enjoy the struggle. The idea of, getting to the point where you don't have to do anything. I think deep down, it actually doesn't sit right with us. We want the struggle. We want to, like, earn the next position, or earn that next rank in martial arts, or whatever, because we like the struggle. We like striving for something.
Yeah, and even in the question, the question says a lot. What do you do when you're no longer challenged at work? Listen, if you're someone who's not looking to be challenged at work, you and I, we're probably not working with them. Like, no one's ever hired me ever and said, I need your help to be as lazy as possible. No,
Right.
It's just,
Right.
it doesn't compute. It's, no one hires a coach to get lazy. Maybe they do. I'm not that coach though.
I tell you, the kind of touching on that, and I've mentioned this before, but there's a couple different kinds of people that come to me looking for a coach. And some folks, they show up and they're like, give me the magic pill to solve all my problems.
Right.
So I can just do it. And that's one group. And then the other group is folks that show up and they understand fully that they have to do all of the work. And I'm really just a sounding board to bounce ideas off of, and give guidance, or left and right fires of sectors of fire. And it's like, there, the mindset there, just even within showing up for coaching, is understanding that it's all on you. You have to do the work.
Yeah. So I wonder also if it's not the right question. The question is more, we don't have to dig into this too much. I wonder if the question is more, you don't love your job like you used to.
Yeah.
That might be, it's a different question. I'm not going to say it's a better question, but it's still in the same ballpark.
Right.
The reason why I want to look at the personal stuff is, and I'll go from experience, my personal experience, not just experience with other clients. Like, when my dad passed away, there was 6 months of grief, and so and this is a pretty common theme for people dealing with grief, especially entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. I would show up for every one of my clients. Nothing, the bar and the standard was always high, remained high. I executed at a high level with them, coaching them, but there was zero interest at all on working on my business, marketing or sales. It was just like, I would show up. It was like the one thing in my day that I would be alive for. And for that hour, 45-minute hour session that I was working with a client, and I would have a couple a day throughout the week, each day, it was like an oasis, really, in depression and grief. And it was temporary depression. Sure. So as soon as I went through the grieving process, that lifted too. And so there's all kinds of factors, a breakup, or if things are just rocky if you're in a monogamous relationship. I imagine if you're in like a relationship with more than one person, it's rocky just by definition. But
probably.
if you're having difficulties in your relationship, if you're having difficulties with your kids, if you have a health issue, all of those things. So I would want to do at first a cursory scan, almost like a screening of, is this actually about my career?
Right.
And then move on from there. That's probably the first step I want to take, because I don't think that takes too long to screen out everything else.
I agree. I think it's actually very difficult to compartmentalize one's life. Things bleed over into each other all the time, whether that's relationally or financially.
Everything's connected.
Mentally, physically, everything's connected. And so, doing that kind of initial screen, maybe you're struggling at work, but that's not really the problem. Maybe the problem is, relational stuff, or maybe you're just not healthy. Maybe you just don't have the energy you used to because you don't exercise anymore. Age is another, for sure. Yeah. So doing that initial screening is clutch, because then, and maybe this is a common theme with how I do things, but it's like that constant self-reflection. And I'm a bit of a nerd, so like I like collecting data on myself, like whether that's my sleep quality every day or my workout routine or my budget or whatever. I like to have numbers in front of me that I can look at and then figure out where I'm falling short in certain areas. But that takes effort, and sometimes people don't want to.
It takes effort because I like having that data. I loathe collecting. You know me. I loathe collecting the data.
Right.
I just hate collecting the data, but I love having it in front of me, and it's become one of those. It's a discipline for sure. I look at discipline. If I enjoy it, it's not a discipline. That's how I feel about it. Right? I'm not disciplined at eating fried chicken. I enjoy it.
I just eat it.
Right?
Yeah, right.
I am disciplined in tracking my data. So I always go for what makes it easiest. Like sleeping with this and just downloading an app. Having an app to track my calories. It's still discipline to put it in.
Sure.
And I make myself, like, it's a conscious choice. Like, here's why I have the choice to input the data or to walk away and guess for the rest of the day. So tracking my fasting, it's easier with an app. It's discipline not to eat. But there are many days where I don't get hungry until 11. So not eating till 2 isn't an issue.
Right.
You know, but when it is an issue, it's like discipline. So I'm with you on that. I think there's I'm going to throw out a couple things that we don't need to dive into, so we can kind of look at the breadth of this question. But like, you bring up a great point about physical age. When your testosterone levels dip, and I'm not at all saying go out and get some TRE. I'm not saying that, but I am saying blood work is not expensive anymore, and you can do it from your home.
Right.
Or there are shops in Richmond now. You just go in to get your blood work done, and you can send it off to a coach or a trainer or whatever, or your PCP, primary care physician.
Mm-hmm.
But testosterone, for example, if your testosterone level is low, there is a direct correlation, and I cannot remember the study. I'll need to look it up, and maybe I'll look it up and post it in show notes. That the higher your testosterone level, the more you actually enjoy struggle and process.
Yeah.
And so if your work has historically been challenging, maybe it's like, it's not that it's a challenge anymore. Maybe it's, I don't enjoy the challenge.
Right.
And if that's just a chemical imbalance, that can be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think it's a process of screening. You look like you had something to say.
No, I do. And there's so many different things that affect that particular hormone in one's body. Like poor quality sleep is like the first thing I go to. Is like when somebody comes to me and says, man, I'm just struggling to get through the workout and stuff like that. Well, how's your sleep? Well, I'm doing 5 hours a night. Well, that's not enough.
Right.
There's another study that was put out, like, I think it was something like, I'm going to misquote the numbers, but it's something along these lines. But men who perpetually sleep less than 7 hours a night or something like that, their testosterone levels are significantly lower than those that get adequate sleep. And so not enjoying the challenge anymore might be directly correlated to testosterone. Well, then how do you fix that? Yeah, you can go out and get TRT, or you can just adjust your sleep, fix your diet, start exercising a little bit. That boosts that natural testosterone level. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
No, it's good. So that screening process is a process. I think that's important to know and to mention that because if something is off, you're going to spend some time fixing that, and you want to wait until that's fixed and adjusted. If your relationship is struggling, you want to wait until you feel like you're in a better place in the relationship before you maybe make that decision. Same thing physically. Same thing with your children, because I don't think it's wise to make a drastic change at work or in your career just to find out it wasn't that. Now, there are plenty of indications. There are plenty of indications in the screening process to find out maybe something else is off and you don't enjoy your work.
Yeah.
But it's a process for sure that you begin adjusting, I think, on several levels. But there's a real sense of all ships rise with the tide. And so if it is a physical thing, everything might improve. Everything will improve. For sure, everything will improve.
Absolutely.
At least clarity will improve with that.
100%.
And then getting into the actual work and the actual career, there's 30,000-foot view things I want to know. Like, for sure, one of the first lines of questioning I'm going to is, why did you get into this career? What do you love about it? Would you do this even if you didn't get paid? Do you make right now what you want to be making? Do you feel it's fair compensation? How is your relationship with your the people you report directly to? How is your relationship with the people who directly report to you? Do you align with the vision and the mission of the company? Is it your own company? That's a big one too.
Yeah.
But that's probably
huge.
After that screening, that's my next line. What do you think?
No,
what do you want to know?
It's great line of questioning. If somebody comes to me with saying they hate their job, I immediately tell them, don't quit yet.
Dude, my God, yes.
First and foremost, keep your job, because bills probably need to be paid. And now let's, all right, as you're managing that area of life that you're not particularly thrilled with, start digging into like, all right, what is wrong with that job? Is it because I just hate the field? Is it because I don't like the people I work with? Is it because I'm not making enough money? All that stuff comes into play, and maybe through that process of analysis, like, you do come to the realization that it's like, I just don't like this field. Let me change. Don't quit yet. start learning the skills and stuff that you need in order to be successful at whatever field you want to go into. And as you've developed those skills and acquire those, I don't know, that information, that those techniques and that type of thing, then you can start to branch out and pursue other things. But
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Having said that, there is some benefit to burning your boats and going all in, but you can't really go all in if you're desperate, and
you can't.
And if you've quit your job, and now are hurting for money, but you want to pursue this new passion, you can't really go on all in because your mind is now divided. It's like, I have to have something. I'm now desperate for income and revenue. And so it's like you can't really focus on the passion.
Yeah, there's a mathematical equation for walking away from a job and a career. And there, also, I'm the guy that's always going to acknowledge there's more questions to be asked. Is it you want to completely change careers? That's why, how is your relationship with your boss? How is your relationship with the people who report directly to you? Do you align with company values and company culture? Because you may love the career, but realize this is a, ish hole to work in. And I need to get around better people. I need to be in a better company that cares about its employees. Right. But there's a mathematical equation for burning the boats, and I believe in it. I believe there are times where you burn the boats, but if you burn the boats while you're still at sea, you're going to drown.
Accurate.
You don't burn the boats at sea. There's no point in burning the boats at sea. And I think a lot of people confuse burning the boats with suicide. It's like that whole story of burning the boats is you've already found the new land.
Right.
And it is not a pleasant thing to burn the boats. I'm sure every single crewman who's with those explorers, and even though they're warriors, probably wanted to kill the general who said burn the boats.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's just like, what are you doing? That was my ride back to my family.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I don't want to stay in this place. Right.
Yeah.
So the mathematical equation depends on where you're at, but you use it to say, okay, when is it more beneficial for my time to be spent doing the new thing than continuing to do what I'm currently doing? But it's the first thing. I'm with you, Chris. When I was helping, and I don't really do it anymore, but when I was helping new coaches launch their coaching business, people would come to me and they'd be like, I'm ready to quit my job. I want to work with you and become a coach. And I'd be like, do not quit your job. Or if they quit their job, I already quit my job. I've got 3 months worth of savings. I'd be like, okay, here's the first thing I'm going to coach you on: finding a new job right now. You don't have to like it. It doesn't have to pay you well, but like, you need to stretch that 3 months into 6 months. If you can stretch that 6 months into a year, with executives, especially some of my elite performers, they could quit for probably 3 years and have enough in savings, and good for them. Right. But they also, they didn't have a desire to waste their time. So they would continue working their job. They wouldn't necessarily quit their job.
Yeah, exactly.
Some companies lay off. I have worked with people who've been laid off. And these are key positions that were getting laid off and not being replaced. And so, but they still had a pad, but they would work every day, like became their job to find a new job.
Yeah.
And they would spend 8 hours a day working on that.
Yeah.
So those are good points. There is a time to burn the boat. It's when you're on the land and you can see the new thing, and you're already receiving from that, if possible, doing contract work or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you do if you just don't, like, if your boss is just an asshole? right?
Yeah.
There's a few things to do before you leave, I think.
Yeah, good question, man. That comes back to, relationally, like how close are you with your supervisor or whatever, or whoever is giving you a hard time? Is it somebody that's receptive to a conversation, like, hey, dude, you suck. Stop being a jerk. you know, uh, sometimes it's as easy as that. It's like, oh, I didn't realize this was rubbing people the wrong way. And sometimes it's like, who are you? Like, get out of my face. So understanding that dynamic for sure. But if somebody's just horrible to work for, um, it's it's hard to change people. People kind of are what they
Yeah, that can be
are
miserable too.
oftentimes. Yeah. Yeah. So if that's the case, if you love the job, if you love the field, but you just don't like the people you work with or for, that might be an easier transition, because you may be able to find a very similar job somewhere else with significantly better people.
That's
Um,
accurate.
but
I
but
do think that's an
I,
easier transition.
yeah. But understanding where you are on maybe the pecking order, if you're able to confront or have a conversation with the supervisor, that's huge. But if that's not a possibility, like in the Army, if you have somebody that is in charge of you, there's not a whole lot you can do, because rank structure and soldier placement is kind of dictated several levels way above your level. So
Yeah.
so sometimes it's just, there's not much you can do, and asking to go somewhere else is not really an option. So sometimes you just got to ride that wave.
And you can't change career
Right.
if you're at a certain point.
Right. It's very difficult.
And so that does become this is my problem, and the thing I have 100% control over is my posture in this
Mm-hmm.
position, my ability to learn to upgrade my skill of letting things go, surrendering outcomes,
Yeah.
and showing up and being the best possible version of myself, executing in this position, regardless of the ranker above me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and other times it is. I'm just on the DL. I'm going to talk to a headhunter,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get some offers, and I'm going to have something in place to walk out of here, directly
Right.
into something else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is all
And
manageable.
right. And again, depending on kind of where you work, sometimes they anticipate high turnover, and so you don't really owe them much of an explanation. It's like, hey, I have a better offer over here, so here's my 2 weeks. Um, so I don't know. You just gotta. It's going to take some self reflection on that. Figure out
Yeah.
what you can tolerate, what you can navigate.
I also think reaching out amidst your inner circle
Mm-hmm.
and having conversations with your really trusted allies,
Yeah.
is important, because there's questions they're going to ask. There are things that your inner circle sees about you that you don't. And hopefully you have the relationship with your inner circle, the kind of relationship where they can say them without you, taking it wrong.
Right.
If not, like,
Right.
there's more work to be done there. I'd start there. But here's where I think it can be most difficult is if you're an entrepreneur, and so you started the company you're doing, and you get to the place where you just really don't like it anymore.
Right.
Like Tom Bilyeu went through this before he and Lisa started Quest. Was he and two other buddies were doing a supplement business, and they were just killing it. But he was dying. Yeah. He was just dying inside. And so he came to them and was like, now they were part of his inner circle on some levels. So he just came to them and said, here's
Sure.
the thing. I kind of want to burn it all down. What do we do? And they created an exit strategy for him where everybody won.
Yeah.
And they all walked away, with relationship intact, which is pretty remarkable in my experience.
That's huge. Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, what about the person who, like, in the military, that was a career choice you built for you, and you decided to walk away from that because you had options.
Yeah.
They wanted you back.
Sure.
I'm sure you didn't. I don't know that we ever talked about if they tried to sweet talk you or honeypot deal you into coming back, but I'm sure they wanted you back because you operated at a high level, the highest levels of the Army. Yeah. So what was that like?
There's a little bit of sweet talking. I remember my team sergeant was like just offering any school I wanted just to stick around. And
what's that mean? Any school you wanted?
So when you're on an ODA or Operational Detachment Alpha, there's different schools available that just, it's like leveling up a character in a video game. You can go to sniper school or ranger school or sapper school or.
Did you go to sniper school?
No, I didn't. But
wish you would have.
Did last night.
Wish you would have, bro.
Yeah, me too. But there's a bunch of cool stuff. Additional medical training, just all kinds of stuff, lone operator stuff. So like he was just trying to sweeten the pot. Like, hey man, I'll give you whatever you want. And at that point, I had already made that decision. Like, nah, it's my time to get out. But that was tricky because that was walking away from a very, very secure career because guaranteed paycheck. I knew what the schedule was. I knew how to do my job well, and if I stayed in longer, I could have just ranked up and continued on. But choosing to walk away from that, I think I've shared this with you, but in my opinion, there's two kinds of people that stay in the military for 20 years or more. It's Group A is they just love the job and they desperately want to make the next generation of soldier better.
And they excel everywhere, right? They excel everything they do. Yeah.
They want to soak up that knowledge and then pass it on. That's Group A. And then Group B, they stay in because it is the safe route. Maybe they hate it, but it's, if I just get to 20, I'm guaranteed retirement. I found myself creeping into Group B, where if I were to stay in, it would have been because of safety, not necessarily because I loved the job anymore. And so that's when I was like, I should probably get out, but it was scary because it was, I had some in savings for sure. And I collect a little bit on disability. So that helps a little bit. But walking away from that security to pursue this brand new thing, it did feel like I was a private in the Army again, where it's like I'm at the bottom. I have to learn everything all over, and that was a pretty intense process, and not always comfortable. It was actually, it's continuing to be uncomfortable the whole time,
right?
And that's good, and that's another reason why I got out, is because I wanted to pursue something where it challenged me in a different kind of way. The Army is incredibly challenging, but this challenges me in a different kind of way,
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Right to the heart of, what you spoke about in beginning this conversation, liking the challenge, enjoying the challenge, not wanting to be stagnant. Yeah, I get that. I think if you're not changing careers, but you're looking to either make a lateral move or a vertical move up, find a good headhunter.
Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely 100%. It's what most of my clients have done when they made a change.
Yeah.
It's what all of them have done now that I'm thinking through them. Because not all of them have switched companies, but the ones that have, they all do, because it's totally worth it.
Right.
You want someone negotiating all of that for you. You want someone doing all that legwork for you, so you can continue to optimally and efficiently produce at your current job without
Right.
putting all the effort into that.
Yeah.
And there's some negotiation and leverage that comes with having a third party. It's like having a real estate agent making that match.
Exactly.
And yeah, you'll give them some money for it. That person's going to
totally
negotiate it out of the
Right.
deal. So don't worry
Yeah.
about that piece. If you're worried about that piece, you're worried about the wrong stuff in life. I'll say it that way.
Yep.
If you're an entrepreneur, or if you're changing careers to become an entrepreneur, you are going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable all the time. There is no guaranteed income.
Right.
Everything could go, face up, butt down any given year, really.
Yeah.
And the stats aren't kind.
Accurate.
The stats aren't kind. Like, the data's there.
Yeah.
That if you and 5 other buddies are starting a business at the same time, 3 of you aren't going to make it. 4 of you aren't going to make it. Yeah. At least that business.
Right. No, it for sure. It's kind of a scary thing, and the uncertainty kind of provokes my drive to continue pursuing.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, because it's all up to me. I don't have a guaranteed paycheck every month, and so the lack of safety net, the lack of security, essentially, forces me to drive a little bit harder and to seek out what is necessary to make this thing grow. And that's sometimes a little bit of fear is good for you, because it keeps you honest and it keeps you striving.
Yeah. I mean, consistent fear or stress and anxiety on a daily basis is long-term detrimental.
Sure.
But a fair amount of fear from time to time gets the blood pumping.
Accurate.
It just does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's like, it's why you cliche, but it's why you intentionally go into a gym or go into the garage and pump iron. While you're pumping iron, you are destroying your muscle, so it can repair and be stronger. So cliche. Can't help it. Couldn't help myself. Yeah. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that would be a shame that we didn't talk about it when it comes to what you do when you don't feel challenged at your job anymore?
I think I really just want to reiterate that when you start to sense that, or maybe you don't even sense it, sometimes that's pretty insidious and it'll sneak up on you, where you realize that you're just kind of stagnant. You're like, man, how long have I been that way? And so, to reiterate, I think continual self-reflection in all areas of life is vital, because it gives you
100%.
Because it gives you, like, all right, how am I sitting with this particular relationship, or how am I sitting mentally? Am I challenging my mind on a regular basis? Am I physically fit? How are my finances? Like, intentionally looking at all of that stuff is so important. And that would be my recommendation to anybody in any station of life.
Yeah. If you're working with us, you already have a higher level of self-awareness than most. I think the intentionality piece. And then there's nothing, like, I had this conversation with a client yesterday, and I've been in this position myself as someone who, I hire coaches.
Yeah.
There are things you can do for somebody else that it feels almost impossible to do for yourself. And so the amount of times I've been in a session with somebody and I've said, okay, so here's what we do. Boom, 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 boom. Like we just kind of went through, we're going to screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's look at every area. Okay. Let's make adjustments. And that person's just like, oh my gosh, I know this stuff. How could, that's so, of course. Why wasn't I doing that? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So having help in there, and this is not a pitch, hire Chris and Brad. This is not that. It is one of those realities that, same for me. I was in a conversation last night with a friend who is a genius, 185 IQ. And he's like, okay, so here's what I do in your situation. Boom, 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 boom. After I was talking to him about some personal stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? I know that. I could have done that.
Right.
You can't. And so having the outside perspective, even if it's just support or just accountability, let alone coaching, having that outside perspective, which is why having a good inner circle, I think, is still so imperative. And finding somebody else who has zero agenda other than helping you focus on this particular thing is invaluable, because you can walk through those pieces. And to your point, hey, here are the things you need to get super intentional about. And I'm going to help you with your level of self-awareness by asking you a string of questions you never would have thought to ask yourself, to peel back the layers so you can see really clearly what is going on in your life. I say invaluable. There's a value to it. and you put a price tag on it. And that's all fine. That's how it works. But totally worth the time, the effort, the money spent to figure these things out with a customized system that helps you peel it all apart. And then you can see, oh, this is what it's sort of like a puzzle. Oh gosh. I cannot remember the author's name. He was popular 20 years ago. Brian, okay, whatever. I'll look it up. I'll have to put that in the show notes too. But he talked about sometimes we get so deep into it, and it's sort of like, going to the top of the jungle to see if you're heading the right. Sometimes we get so deep into trying to put the puzzle together that we don't have a clear picture of what the lid box looks like. But when you finally can see the lid box, you're like, oh, so, okay, let's clear the board again. Okay, here's the corners. Here are the edges. Okay, here are the different shades. These are where the puzzle pieces go. And the further you get into that puzzle, once you've got that reference point of the lid of the box, the easier it becomes. And you get done and 100%. You're like, God, I wish I would have looked at that lid sooner.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Very applicable to life. Like, figure out what your life is supposed to look like. And interestingly, you get to dictate that. And then start putting the corner pieces together.
Yeah, and I think it does come back to exactly to your point. You don't ask yourself what you want, and then spend the rest of your life going after that. I think this constant self-reflection is, what do I want? What do I truly want? Because the further up the percentile you go, when you start getting to the 80, 85 percentile, 90 percentile of life till you're, at least until you're 99, it gets clearer and clearer, and it also changes. Oh, I thought I wanted X, Y, and Z. And in reality, what I'm discovering is some of the things I want, I already had. I want to focus more there. And then there's these things I never thought about. This is truly what I want to go after.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Spot on. Absolutely.
What a great place to end. Good job, Brad.
Drop the mic, man.
I can't. It's attached to this arm. It squeaks though, man. I don't know if you can hear that. I either need to oil ring it or new one, but I'm kind of like, this arm and I have been through. This is like the first arm I got like 10 years ago when I got this microphone. Anyways, hey man, I appreciate your insight. I I was excited about bringing this question to you.
No, that was a great conversation, man. It was awesome talking with you.
Yeah, brother. For those of you who don't, you maybe you're not in the place you want to be. All right. And so all of these questions seem like way over the head of where you're at in life right now. That's okay. Chris and I have Academy 99. It's $9.99 a month. Now, this isn't elite executive performance coaching, but it's two experts who do elite executive performance coaching you on, we call it base camp, right? These are all the fundamentals that get you into that place where you can start looking at taking some of those leaps to the next levels.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out on this self-development journey, or you just really want to change, hop in there. The link is in the show notes. It's like I always say it's less than one foo-foo coffee drink, which I don't drink those anyways, but it's less than one foo-foo drink. You get coaching from Chris and I twice a month. You get the community of the other people that are in Academy 99, and you get a lot of our resources that we use with elite performers and with executives. And we'll walk you through a lot of these foundational aspects so you can build your base camp, so you can pick your path on that summit. And for some people, they'll be determining, well, I don't even know what mountain I want to climb. Great. We can absolutely help you with that.
Yep. We can figure that out.
You won't find this level of coaching anywhere near this price anywhere, but it's
accurate
passion project for Chris and I. We're like, dude, what if we just like helped a bunch of people, and it didn't take like a whole lot of our time. So hop into there if you're interested. If you don't like it, just, you can unsubscribe. No worries. But we shoot you the link, and then we get on calls twice a month. So have at it. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up, Chris?
Dude, you nailed it, man. Again, always awesome talking with you. So,
yeah, man. Love it.
Yeah. Remember, self-reflect, and then we'll move forward.
You wrap things up with such pretty bows. I don't know if they taught you that in the military. Is that a special ops thing? Like, how do you wrap your Christmas packages? Are they neat and tidy, or is it like in a bag with a bunch of fill paper?
Good question. I'm not great at wrapping,
personal,
so it's usually a lot of duct tape and a newspaper and bubble wrap.
I've got some websites I can send you to. There's some great tutorials on wrapping.
Perfect.
And my fiance wraps. I unwrapped those presents. The first, it wasn't my birthday. I think the first holiday we spent together was Thanksgiving and then Christmas. And I could not believe how just the epitome of efficiency in this wrapping. And then the following Christmas, I actually saw her wrapping her kids' presents. Yeah. Dude, it totally leveled up my wrapping game. Like, I became obsessive. Like, the way she folds paper, there are no jagged edges. Everything is uniform.
That's awesome.
No wasted tape. I'm just like, that is actually turning me on. That is a skill talent at a level that I never thought. And it was the challenge. It was like, I wonder if I can wrap my presents like immaculately this year.
I like
so there's my challenge to you, Chris.
How you do everything, right?
That's my challenge to you, man.
All right, I'll look it up.
I have no idea.
Start wrapping things.
Got to hear. All right, Nody. I'll chat with you next week.
All right, man. We'll catch you.
See you.